Good morning, everybody. As y'all are checking in, y'all see the topic. Y'all know we're going to be talking about today. The finish line for the milkshake. Good morning. Congrats. First comment. Finish line for the 2024 presidential election. At least we think this is the finish line. This is election day. Today, I want to talk about some issues that I think each side may have on this final day as people are making their voting decisions and we start to see the voting outcomes of this 2020 election. Let me make sure we are live everywhere. I think we are good over here. We got, I think, 4 going over here. We're good on Facebook. I don't know if LinkedIn is working or not. LinkedIn is giving me a lot of issues. One thing that I will say to LinkedIn, I'm going over to LinkedIn to see if this is working. I can't tell. There's no way for me to know. I don't know if LinkedIn is working at all, but the show shall go on with or without LinkedIn. I don't know if this LinkedIn Live is working, and I do not see. I don't even know how to even tell if the live is going right now on LinkedIn. This is ridiculous. LinkedIn ain't really making this easy. I don't know why. LinkedIn. Anybody who works at LinkedIn or you know somebody at LinkedIn who's part of the development team, it's 2024. Why the hell does LinkedIn is the only app? I'm live. Let me tell you where I'm live at right now. I'm on Rumble. I'm on YouTube. I'm on X. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. And I think I'm live on LinkedIn, but I can't quite tell. LinkedIn is the only one of these apps where they don't have a button where you could just click the button and do a live stream. It's the only one where you got to do this encoding software and you got to use a third-party app and all of this stuff. LinkedIn, y'all are like a billion-dollar company. Y'all based in Silicon Valley. Y'all got plenty of money. Y'all had the development team. Why the hell do y'all not have a live streaming built in natively into your platform? I don't understand why LinkedIn doesn't do this. You can live stream, but you got to use something else to do the live stream. I don't know why they're doing it. That's the end of my LinkedIn rant. We got a lot to get to here today. We got less than 2 hours to get to it. So we got a lot to get into here, folks. Hope everybody is doing well. Y'all see the topic, finish line for the 2024 election. I know some of you have already voted. Some of you are going to go vote today. Some of you not going to vote at all, but everybody has an opinion. Everybody has something to say. I got some things I'm going to share here today when it comes to the finish line of this election and where I think things are going to go. So my wife was showing me this morning, there was an email that came from the management of our building. I didn't see this email. I don't know why I didn't get it, but I get all their other emails. I didn't get this email. They sent out an email down here in Miami. I don't know how it is where you live, where they said that because of this election happening today, that there may be some civil unrest in the neighborhood based on the outcome of the election. This is what our building is saying to us. They're giving us a warning. And it's not like I'm in Washington, D.C., but they said there may be some civil unrest due to the outcome of the election. And I think, here's what I think, as we get into this topic here today, and I'll introduce myself in a second. I think there will be much more unrest if it's announced that Trump wins than if it's announced that Kamala wins. And before I get into explaining why that is and the other things that I think are issues for either side here, and there are more issues for one side than I think than for the other, let me introduce myself. For those who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year pro athlete, author of 35 books, and I'm 4 TEDxTalks. I created this brand called Work on Your Game. Our job over here is to help high-level performers, high-level professionals and entrepreneurs, salespeople, perform at your highest level, do so consistently, and produce more results. If that's what you're looking for, you're in the right place with the right person and at the right time. So I believe that because, here's my first point, there is, people talk about that the Trump campaign, for example, the Democratic side has continually said that the campaign of hate and unrest and what's the other phrases that they're using, like this lack of cohesion between people. They're claiming that this is coming from the Republican side, specifically the Trump campaign. That's what they keep saying. The Democrats keep saying that, right? I believe if you're really just objectively paying attention, which I am, I believe there's much more hate going towards Trump and the MAGA MAGA collective, for lack of a better term, than it is coming from Trump and the MAGA collective. That's what I've seen. Seems like more people hate him and hate MAGA and hate the concept of him possibly winning more than him or anyone on his side hates the people who are not on his team. And one of the personal examples that I can give you of this is that 3 weeks ago, I did back-to-back live streams. I did one live where I did 2 hours where I explained why Kamala Harris would win. And this is not why I want her to win, but why she would, if she did win, why she would win. I did 2 hours on that. You could probably find that. You could definitely find it on YouTube, still on YouTube. Then the very next day, I did another 2 hours on why Donald Trump would win. And in the responses that I got to both of those lives, the one about Harris, with some people who are not Harris supporters who said, how could you be a liberal? How could you support Kamala? That's ridiculous, and saying negative stuff about Kamala. But it wasn't crazy. People were saying stuff, but it wasn't ridiculous. When I did the live about Trump and why Trump would win, the feedback was it was a lot of vitriol in the comments of people who just hate Trump. And they weren't even talking about me. They were just saying negative things about him, period. And as much as his detractors like to say that his campaign and his party and his team is a team of hate and non-acceptance and division, it has appeared to me that the tables have flipped over the last, especially in this campaign, that there's much more hate and negativity and division coming from his opposition than is actually coming from him. And these people are saying that Trump is this divisive person, but they're the ones who are doing dividing. That's what I'm saying from the Democratic Party. Any of you who is a Democrat or you are connected to the Democratic Party or y'all are watching the same thing that I'm watching, maybe you see something different than what I'm seeing, please let me know. But this is what I've seen. And I'm saying all that to frame this message that I got from the management of my building. They're saying there may be some unrest based on the outcome of tonight's election. I believe that if Harris wins, people will be generally happy. And Miami is a blue city. Florida is generally a purple state. It could go either direction. I think it's probably going to go red this year, meaning he's going to vote for Trump. But Miami, the city itself, is generally blue. So if she wins, it's probably going to be happiness in this town. And if Trump wins, I think there will be some unrest. I do believe that'll happen if Trump wins. If it's announced that Trump won, then I think a lot of people who hate Trump and they've been conditioned to hate Trump, they don't have a real reason to hate him, but they've been conditioned to hate him. There will be some unrest. There may be marching in the streets. There may be demonstrators. I don't know if that would happen here in Miami. This is not some super political town, but in other towns, maybe where some of you live, I definitely do believe that would happen. So let's move on to point number 2. And here I'm talking about just some finish line issues that may be on both sides. Let's go to Vice President Kamala Harris, who's running for the Democratic Party on the Democratic ticket. Kamala Harris has, throughout this, about 3 months that she's been on this campaign, she's been sending out mixed messages, which make me very wary of what she would really do and who she really is in terms of how she would govern as president. And again, I don't know if y'all have seen the same thing that I've seen. She's sending out a whole bunch of mixed messages. So first of all, during her, I believe this is before she was VP, she was talking about that she wanted taxpayers to fund sex change operations for people who were incarcerated. Even if they were illegally in the country, there could be sex change operations that would be funded by the taxpayers. She was a supporter of this, and she is on record saying this verbally, and she can't deny that she said this. The issue is not whether or not she said it. The issue is when people bring it up to her now during this campaign, they say, hey, Vice President Harris, do you still support that? Are you still going to do that? She has kind of filibustered the question, meaning she doesn't exactly answer the question. She responds by saying something like, I will follow the law. I will stay within the confines of the law. Have you heard her say that? In a couple interviews she's been asked this question. She's been asked, hey, you said this back then. What do you think about it now? And her response is not, yes, I still want to do that, or no, I'm not going to do it. Her response has been she's given a couple different responses. One is, I will follow whatever the law is that's on the books. That's one answer, which is a non-answer. Another one is, in the Joe Biden administration that I'm a part of, we have followed the law the entire time. That's another answer that she's given. And the third answer is she just changes the subject and says something about Donald Trump. This is a problem. Now, I understand in politics that sometimes you have to do this. You have to kind of dodge the question because you get asked a question that you don't really want to address because it might make you look bad. Every politician does that. Trump does it sometimes. Obama has done it. Clinton did it. Biden has done it. You have to learn how to do that because sometimes you just get cornered with a question that it wouldn't help you to answer. At the same time, you can't do it every single time you're asked a direct question about something that you policy-wise have directly stood behind. She's directly stood behind this. She also said, we're going to ban fracking. She said that out of her mouth, that I support banning fracking. We're going to end fracking. There will be no more fracking. But the problem is, if she wants to ban fracking, she can't win the state of Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania, I believe, is 21 electoral college votes. And if she loses the state of Pennsylvania in the election tonight, it's a wrap. She will not win if she loses the state of Pennsylvania. And she has said that she wanted to ban fracking. And now she's kind of flip-flopping on that and saying that she wouldn't ban fracking, and then saying that, well, the Biden administration has not banned fracking. So she's hiding behind Joe Biden, funny one. And she is claiming that whatever the Biden administration did, she's going to do. And then people ask her a follow-up question. Okay, well, what are you going to do different from Joe Biden? She's not really answering the question. The problem is a lot of people have an issue with the Joe Biden administration. So she's kind of twisting herself in circles, twisting herself in knots with these non-answers that she's given to direct questions. The problem with this is, if she is to win, what is she actually going to do? You don't really know. And that's a problem. And some of her supporters, and I see this on X all the time, they say, well, she does have policy. You go to her website and she has a list of all these policies and things that she's claiming that she's going to do. All of that is rubbish. It doesn't matter. Even if Trump does the same thing, it doesn't matter. A politician can promise you they're going to do anything, but what they actually do is a whole different thing, on top of the fact that a president cannot push through any type of policy without the support of Congress. Congress has to go with it. Even if Congress is the same party as the president, both sides of the House and the Senate, let's say Trump wins and he has Republican, doesn't mean that Congress is going to go with everything he wants to do, because they have their own interests. And the lobbyists are trying to go with certain things too. And if Kamala wins and the Congress is Democrat, doesn't mean everything she tries is going to work. When she tried the first version of the border bill a few years ago, the Democrats pushed it back. The Democrats said no to it. It wasn't the Republicans. It wasn't Trump. It was the Democrats who said, no, we don't want this border bill because it was too much nonsense in that bill. In the political terms, they call it pork. There was a lot of pork in that bill. Pork is just the extra stuff that they don't announce. And the Democrats didn't like it because, again, each one of those people has lobbyists in their ears, money in their pocket from those lobbyists. They have to vote a certain way if they want to keep that money going, or they want to get voted for and reelected in the next cycle. And their opponents will use whatever way they vote against them. So when you hear them talking about voting records, that's what they're talking about. And the Democrats push back on that first border bill. So she keeps blaming it on Donald Trump. Donald Trump ain't in Congress. And it wasn't the Republicans who pushed back, it was the Democrats, because of the nonsense in the bill. And the whole point being, whatever policy that a politician tells you that they're going to do while they're campaigning has no bearing on what they actually have to do if they win. See, if Kamala Harris or Donald Trump wins, neither one of them is beholden to do what they said they're going to do on the campaign trail. So it's not like a contract. All right, it's not like they're saying, all right, if you vote for me, here's the things on the contract. I'm going to sign this and I have to actually do it. They don't have to do anything. They can tell you whatever they want and then they can do whatever they want on the back end. All right, this is the issue with the federal government. And this is the reason why 3 weeks ago, I did a live stream that told you who to vote for in this election. The answer is, and you want to know, vote for yourself. Why? Because the federal government is not here to do anything for you. We will talk about it because it's interesting, but are they actually going to do anything for you? No. One reason is because they have no resources. The federal government is broke. They're actually not broke. Broke means they have zero. The federal government is in debt, $35 trillion in debt. They can't do anything for you. And how they get $35 trillion in debt? Because they fumble the bag on anything they have control over. So if you give the government control over you, guess what they're going to do? They're going to fumble the ball. Same way they fumbled the U.S. Postal Service. Same way they have fumbled money. The same way they have fumbled the medical system. Same way they have fumbled healthcare. They will fumble everything else. The only thing the government has not fumbled is the military. We got a very strong military. We're usually successful in wars, and there's a lot of money that goes into that. All right, that's the only thing they haven't really fumbled. But even then, they did kind of fumble because all the money we spend on the military is one of the reasons why we're so far in debt. So they literally fumbled every single thing they've been in control over. So don't any of you get excited over whoever wins this election. You can be happy, but don't get too excited, because whoever wins, they still have to work within a system, and no one person with only 4 years to do it is going to change that system. That's not going to happen. Donald Trump would only have 4 years. If Kamala wins, she could potentially have 8. She ain't changing the system. She ain't trying to change the system. Have you listened to her talk? Kamala Harris is not trying to change the system. So any of you, especially black people who like to talk about systemic anything, systemic racism and systemic oppression and systemic inequality and systemic, we don't have the same opportunities. Any of you black people throwing out these systemic issues that you have a problem with in the United States of America, how the hell are you going to vote for Kamala Harris when she is part of the system and all she wants to do is extend and expand the power of the system? That's literally what she wants to do. She is a product of the system. So you're a black person. Let's go back to Mr. Colin Kaepernick. Remember Colin Kaepernick? He hasn't played football in 8 years, but y'all remember him, right? That the guy who was kneeling during the national anthem and saying that he wanted to protest, and I'll answer all questions and comments at the end, by the way. So if you have a question or comment, I will answer it. Just wait till I'm done. He was saying that he wanted to bring attention and start a conversation. That was his phrase, start a conversation about systemic racism and systemic everything against black people in America. Here's the issue. Kamala Harris is a product of the system, and she's going to extend and expand the use of the system. I just told you the fundamental issue with the system is that they completely fumble every single thing they control. You can't name me one thing the federal government has control over that they've done a good job with. Not one. Name it. If you can name it, tell me what it is. YouTube over there. I see you. Rumble, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, TikTok, please, Facebook. Please tell me what's one thing the federal government has control over that they've done a good job with in your estimation. There isn't anything. So Kamala Harris is part of the system. Donald Trump wants to fight the system. That's why they're so staunchly against him, because he's trying to fight against the system. Now, he's not going to be able to dismantle the whole thing, but he can start pointing. He can start steering the ship in the right direction. Donald Trump, I do believe he can do that. If you're a person who wants to see the system get reduced, then Donald Trump is your person. If you want to see the system get expanded and have more control, then Kamala is your person. And there are many other, of course, details that we're going to get into as we go further into this conversation. So Kamala Harris is a system person. All right, what has she said unique or different that you haven't heard from any politician ever before? Has anyone heard her say anything you haven't heard a politician say? She said anything that Hillary didn't say, or Biden didn't say, or Obama didn't say, or even Bush, George Bush, W. Bush, H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton back in the day. She's not saying anything different. She is a system person. If you like the system, vote for Kamala Harris. All right, she's going to give you more of what you've been getting. If you want to see the system start to get pulled apart and changed in some way, then Trump is actually the candidate for change, believe it or not. And that was Obama a few years ago, right? What about this abortion rights? We talked about this yesterday. Okay, so I addressed this in detail yesterday. So if you didn't catch the live I did yesterday, the replay is on YouTube. And I'm on YouTube, by the way. Those of you watching me on TikTok, I'm on every other app besides TikTok. TikTok is not the only app I'm on. I'm on everything. And this abortion issue. So people think incorrectly that abortion is, or women's rights, the nonsense language game that they play, is on the ballot this year. No, it's not on the ballot. It's already been decided by the Supreme Court that it's a state level issue now. You want to get an abortion, you just got to be in the state where you're allowed to get an abortion. Simple as that. Kamala Harris cannot create an abortion rights bill. She's claiming that she's alluding to it in her campaign. All candidates do this. No, she cannot create an abortion rights bill because, first of all, Congress would have to okay an abortion rights bill to even get to her desk in the first place. And she says, they put an abortion rights bill on my desk, I will sign it. And the crowd goes crazy. Problem is the bill will never get to her desk because it won't happen. Congress is not going to okay an abortion rights bill. And let's go even further. I heard Megyn Kelly make this argument yesterday, and it was a very good point. So I'm going to give hat tip to Megyn Kelly for this. If there was, so let's just say that happens, right? Those of you who are in support of abortion, let's call it what it is. Let's not play the language games with women's rights or reproductive freedom and none of that bullshit. Let's call it what it is, which is abortion. If you are a fan of that and you want abortion to be federally codified to where anyone can do it and it's decreed by the federal government, you got a couple problems. Problem number one is that you don't want the federal government in charge of anything. I just established that. And I'm going to keep telling you that. So let's just say, right, that the federal government decides that yes, or the government being Congress, and then it gets signed into law by allegedly, or what's the word I'm looking for? Let's just say it's President Harris, right? She signs in this bill that now the federal government says abortion is legal. Now we have a federal bill on abortion that now, not a law, rather, not a bill, but a law, because she signs it, becomes a law. Here's the problem. Kamala Harris only has 4 years. What if she loses in 2028 to a Republican? Has any of you thought this out? If Kamala Harris does what she says she's going to do, she says that she'll get Congress to make a bill about federally codifying abortion, and she says she will sign it, which makes it into a law. A bill from Congress, goes to the president signs it, it becomes a law. So now it's a federal law that anyone can get an abortion. Here's the problem. She only got 4 years. Do you not think that when in the midterm elections, when the Congress can change from Democrat to Republican, because you would need full Democrat on both sides for that to even happen. So let's say it flips from Democrat to Republican and the president flips from Democrat to Republican. And let's say it flips 4 years from now or 8 years from now or 12 years from now. And now you have an all Republican Congress and a Republican president. Do you not think that Republican president and Republican Congress won't create a law that goes the exact opposite of that and create a new law that says now nobody can get an abortion and it's federally banned? See, that's what you don't want. So you don't want Kamala Harris to set the precedent of we're going to create a federal law that says you can get an abortion, because all that's going to happen is when the Democrats are no longer in power, the Republicans are going to flip around and do it the exact opposite. So the limited rights, if you even want to call it that, is not really. It's a state level thing now to get an abortion. But if she makes it a federal thing, now she's playing a dangerous game that now the Republicans is going to flip it around. It's going to make it federal that you can't do it. Bad business to be in. So y'all have to think long term. Most people don't do that. You want to think long term about how these things will work out. This is the problem with a system person like Kamala Harris. She just wants to do everything by the system, and the federal government's going to be in charge, and we're going to do more things for you. Anytime I hear a politician talking about what we, the government, is going to do for you, I'm very wary of everything that they say. Not on the basis of whether or not they're actually going to do it. The problem being the federal government is not good. They're not effective. They're not efficient. And they are not here to help you because they have nothing to help you with. That's the problem with depending on anything the federal government tells you they're going to do. Kamala says we're going to give everybody $25,000 for a house. Let's just say she actually does it. That's going to make the cost of your everyday goods, whether you buy a house or not, it's going to make the cost of your everyday goods go up because the Federal Reserve Bank is going to have to print money for that to happen because the government does not have the money to give it to you. So even if she does it, every $25K she gives away to somebody to buy a house, and a bunch of those people are not even they haven't even gone through the process of becoming American citizens. So, but we're going to get to that later on here today. Those people who get the money for that house are going to cause your cost to go up. Your gas, your groceries, your health care, your child care, your clothes, your everything. Why? Because your dollar is worth less money every time the Fed throws more money out there. Every time more money gets thrown out there, dollars are less valuable than they were before because the circulation of a thing makes its value go down. The scarcity of a thing makes its value go up. That's just simple human nature. The more something is available, the less valuable it is. And the less available something is, the more valuable it becomes. More money that we print, because we keep printing money. This is how we got $35 trillion in debt. The dollars are just worthless and you can't do anything with it. So these are all these things that Kamala's sending these mixed messages on, and you don't know exactly what she's going to do. And even if you believe every word that she says, you're still putting yourself in a precarious position. All right, if you go along with these things that she's saying. So this is a challenge when it comes to Vice President Harris. Moving on to point number 3. This is a challenge for the Trump side, the MAGA side, the Republican side, is the possible voter shenanigans. And nobody can act like this ain't a thing. Even if you hate Trump, even if you're a never Trumper, even if you're an anti-MAGA, even if you actually like Kamala Harris. I don't think anybody likes Kamala Harris. I think people just dislike Trump. So whoever goes against him, they're going to vote for it. If it was a ham sandwich, they vote for the ham sandwich. Even if you're on that side, I don't think any of us can claim or act like we don't know that there may be some voter shenanigans by the Democratic Party to make sure that Trump does not win. And again, it's not so much about Harris. She just happens to be the person in the spot. But voter shenanigans for Trump winning, is this possible? Absolutely, it's possible. And that's why one of the things that I want to know about tonight, not so much about who wins. I just want to know who won by the end of the night. Or I go to bed pretty early. So if I wake up tomorrow morning, I want to know who won. I want to know what the outcome is. This person won. The other person conceded, and it's done. That's what I want to know. Even if we don't officially know, but if they concede, like in 2016, we didn't officially know because they hadn't counted every single ballot yet, but they could call it, and Hillary called Trump and conceded. In 2020, there are certain states that they were able to call. Of course, we didn't get the outcome yet because you had the mail-in ballots and the COVID situation. There was a whole lot of shenanigans then. Hopefully, it's less shenanigans this time because we don't have the virus going around and people aren't staying in their houses. I don't want the voting shenanigans. I believe, though, at the same time, I believe that the Democratic Party is going to do everything that they can to make sure that it is not announced that Trump won, even if on the scoreboard, he's won. I believe they're going to do everything they can to keep that from happening. Why? Because first of all, if it's announced on the scoreboard that he won, then for them to go back and say that he didn't win, now you want to talk about chaos. All right, you want to talk about civil unrest. Okay, you thought January 6th was a thing? Let that happen. Let that happen tonight. You're going to see some real civil unrest. If it gets announced on the scoreboard that he won, then the Democratic Party comes out and tries to say, oh, he didn't win, or we're not finished counting the ballots, or hey, here we got 300,000 more ballots in the state of Pennsylvania or Georgia or Michigan or Wisconsin that nobody counted yet. Wait a minute, we can't announce it yet. If that happens, you're going to see some civil unrest. If that happens, I suggest you stay in the house, all right, unless you are a proud Second Amendment supporter, if you get what I'm saying. If that happens, you don't want to go outside. That would be the civil unrest. Now, if it gets announced that Harris won, I don't think there will be as much. There will be pushback by the Republican Party, but I don't think it will be as much pushback as if it's announced that Trump won. But we'll see. What I'm hoping for is that we have an outcome, that usually by about midnight, maybe 2 a.m, there's an outcome announced. This person won, and the other person who didn't win has called the other candidate and said, congratulations, you won. And then they go give their conceding speech like, hey, we did a good job. It's not over, et cetera, et cetera. Hopefully we get that and it's done. I don't know if that's going to happen tonight, but we'll see. I'm hoping that happens, but we'll see. Moving on to point number 4, and I'm going to take questions and comments at the end. And I'm talking here today about the finish line issues that I see for both sides. For the Democratic Party, and this is, I talked about this a little bit yesterday. I didn't touch on it fully, but we're going to touch on it now when we talked about abortion. As some of you like to call it with the language games, women's rights or reproductive freedom. Those are bullshit languages. Let's call it what it is, which is abortion. What is a woman? I'm asking this question to the audience. What is a woman? Because the reason why we have to ask this question is because allegedly, Kamala Harris is this allegedly this black woman, possibly first black woman to become president of the United States of America. And we know that Kamala Harris is not black. Candace Owens has done a solid month of investigative journalism that proves Kamala Harris ain't black. She's Irish and Indian and Jewish, and she's claiming black. But what is a woman? I'm just asking the question because yesterday when we were talking about abortion, we were talking about the Supreme Court. And the latest justice to be added to the Supreme Court is Miss Ketanji Brown Jackson, who I believe grew up here in Miami, Florida. And she is black and allegedly a woman. Problem is, when she was being vetted, I guess we can say, by the committee to become a member of the Supreme Court, she was asked a direct question, what is a woman? And she started stammering and said, I cannot give a definition of what a woman is. This woman is on the Supreme Court, and she could not give a definition of what a woman is. I don't think anybody's asked Kamala Harris what is a woman, but she is running as a woman. Nobody's just asked her a direct question, Vice President Harris, what's a woman? And I haven't heard her answer. Now, why does this matter? What does it have to do with Harris and Trump? Well, it has a lot to do with Kamala Harris because she's from the same party that Ketanji Brown Jackson is from. And she was appointed to the Supreme Court for the same reason that Kamala was appointed as vice president, because Joe Biden said, I'm going to pick a black woman. All right, that's the reason why she was chosen. Joe Biden said, I'm going to pick a black woman, and he picked her. He said, I'm going to pick a black woman for VP, and he picked Kamala. And if this person who's on the Supreme Court doesn't know what a woman is, and Kamala Harris and her are on the same team, if she wins, and let's say she does get to replace 1 or 2 or 3 justices on the Supreme Court who retire out, die out, whatever, and there's a chance that she might pick a couple more justices who don't know what a woman is. And what happens if a case goes all the way up to the Supreme Court about boys playing in girls' sports, or a male gets arrested, goes to jail, and he decides that he's a female as soon as he's getting booked into, he's about to get put into the jail cell. He says, wait a minute, don't put me in here with the men, put me over there with the women. I'm a woman. As soon as he announces it, what if that gets codified by the Supreme Court? Now it's a federal law. Now a man gets arrested, he could be hanging with the women, and they can just keep changing what they are. A man's on the boys basketball team. He decides when he's a senior, oh no, I'm a girl. He gets on the girls basketball team. Man's playing in the NBA, decides he wants to play in the WNBA. Where is this going? All right, where's this going? Now, this could be a slippery slope that may not go this far, but where's this going? What is a woman? I'm asking this question to the people who are listening to me. What is a woman? Ketanji Brown Jackson, who's on the Supreme Court, does not know what a woman is. or at least she claims to not know the woman. I don't think she doesn't know. I think she claims to not know. Kamala Harris is on her team. Joe Biden appointed Ketanji the same way he appointed Kamala. They're on the same team. What's a woman? All right, we got a problem here, folks. I think this is a potential problem. And Jackson's already on the Supreme Court. She can't get kicked off. Now, Harris might not win this election. Then she'd be gone. If Kamala loses, we won't hear from Kamala Harris ever again. This will be over. Her ascension will be done if she loses this election. But if she wins, she could possibly appoint many more people who think just like this. So what's a woman? All right, so think about this. Move on to point number, I'm just going to leave that question sitting there. Let's move on to point number 5. Barack Obama is from Kenya. This one we know. Barack Obama is from Kenya. And I'm bringing up Barack Obama because he's Democratic Party. He's out on the campaign trail. And I'm going to tell you why I even care about this, why I care about Barack Obama being from Kenya. Because I remember back when Donald Trump first came out, he first kind of put his foot into the political space by announcing or claiming that Barack Obama was not from America. He was from Kenya. Donald Trump was saying that this is the whole birther thing that they had back in the day. And most people put this on Trump. And this is where people started calling Donald Trump racist and xenophobic and all these other things, because he was the one who was really pushing this concept that Barack Obama was not from the United States. Now, back then, I didn't really care. I wasn't really paying that much attention to these things and didn't really think too much of it all this time up until now, until Miss Candace Owens, who all you know who Candace Owens is. Candace Owens started doing some deep diving. She started performing surgery on Kamala Harris's background, which she's been doing for the last month. In the process of doing that, she also did a little bit of surgery on Barack Obama. He's not running. But here's the thing. Here's the reason that I got interested with Barack Obama, because when he was doing an appearance, I believe it was in Chicago, he was speaking to some black males. This was not on stage, but it was after, but he was being filmed. He knew he was being filmed. And he started talking to these black males, and he was saying, I thought I need to come over and speak to the brothers. This is the language that he used. I got to speak to the brothers about supporting this woman. This woman is from the same neighborhood as you, went to the same schools as you, because Kamala famously went to an HBCU, and she knows the struggle and she knows the background of where you're coming from. I don't see the brothers coming out and supporting her in the voting process. I took a lot of offense to Barack Obama saying this for a couple of reasons. First of all, Kamala Harris is married to a white man, and I have no problem with interracial dating or interracial mixing, marriage, et cetera, et cetera. No problem whatsoever. However, if you, Barack Obama, are going to show up to a bunch of black people and tell them you got to support the black woman because she's black, at the same time that woman is with a white man, that's an issue. All right, you're out of line making that kind of comment. That's an out of line comment for Barack Obama to make. How crazy will Barack Obama look? Just picture this. When Barack Obama was running for president in 2008, he got like 96% of the black vote went to him. Any black person who voted, 96% of them voted for Barack against John McCain. If Barack Obama had been married to Molly Obama instead of Michelle Obama, could he have shown up to a room full of black women and said, hey, support me because I'm black, you black, we got to support each other? Could he have done that? And what would the response have been from those black women if Barack Obama showed up in that room with a white woman, Molly Obama, on his arm? Would he have gotten 96% of the black vote? Hell no, he wouldn't have got 96% of the vote. He would have got a majority. He still would have got a good amount. But would he have gotten 96%? Absolutely not. He would not. Now, some of you may wonder, if you're not black, you may wonder, why does that even matter? Why is that even a thing? Well, I just told you why it's a thing. If you show up and say black got to support black, you can't say that if you went and married somebody who's white. You just can't do that. And again, I'm not knocking anybody who is in an interracial relationship or doing interracial dating. There's nothing wrong with it. What I'm saying is you can't show up and tell black people we got to support each other. When you're a man and you got a white woman, you can't go into a room of black women and say, well, you got to support me because I'm black. And they're like, well, you chose a white woman. Barack Obama showed up to a bunch of black men and said, y'all got to support this black woman who's with a white man. All right, that don't make no sense. That makes no sense whatsoever. I see you, Swiftly 44 said they would have called Obama a sellout. He's still a sellout. He's a sellout now for doing that. What he did this year makes him a sellout. On top of the fact that Kamala Harris ain't black. Kamala Harris ain't from the neighborhood. Neither is Barack Obama. Neither one of them is from the hood. Now, I'm from the hood. Barack Obama ain't from the hood. Kamala Harris ain't from the hood. All right. And Kamala happened to go to an HBCU. It doesn't prove anything. All right. White people can go to an HBCU. That does not make you black. And Kamala Harris has said some things that she's trying to claim how she's black. She was doing an interview with, I can't remember who she was talking to. I believe it was Shannon Sharp when she said it. In the Shannon Sharp interview, she was saying that you have family by blood and then you have family by like community or whatever she was saying. Like it's people that I call uncle and auntie who are not really blood uncles and aunties, but because I was around them, I consider them my family. That's all good, fine, but that don't make you black. Like if you grew up around if you're a white person, you grew up around a bunch of black people, that don't make you black by association. Ain't no such thing as being black by association. Either you're black or you're not. Kamala Harris is not black. And she's trying to claim black through these associations and not by blood because she knows very well. Her campaign knows very well that Candace Owens has been performing surgery on her background. And we already knew that Kamala wasn't black because when she first was running, Judge Joe Brown did an interview with this YouTube channel called The Art of Dialogue. And he said, I met Kamala's dad back in the day in California. And when I got introduced to him, he told me that he was Hindu and Irish. Joe Brown said that way back. This is before Joe Brown got interviewed by Candace Owens, and he's been getting interviewed by a bunch of people because he goes from this background and all this stuff. Now it's becoming more of a news because Candace has a bigger audience than Judge Joe Brown has. And Judge Joe Brown doesn't have an audience. He just gets interviews. He's pretty much retired these days. But this was said way back then. So let's get back to Barack Obama. All right, Barack Obama being from Kenya. All right, this is how we know that he's from Kenya. First of all, I go off of what story does somebody tell when they have no reason to have you believe anything? When they have no reason to get you to believe something, what do they tell you? That's usually the honest version is when I don't need you to believe this side or that side or that side or that side. What story am I telling then? Barack Obama was, if y'all didn't see this, Candace Owens detailed this. So please go watch the videos she's been putting out for the last month. They're all on YouTube. She detailed this, that back in like the 90s, Barack Obama was about to write a book. All right. He was set with a publisher to write some book about whatever he was going to write about. And this is before his name was Barack Obama. This is back when he was going by his name that he had in his youth, which was Barry Soetoro. That's the name that he grew up with. And Barack Obama, in the book, rather, on the website of the publisher's website or something that they printed out, they had a picture of the guy we now know as Barack. And it said, Barry Soetoro was born in Kenya and raised in Indonesia. This is before politics, before he had any aspiration of being a president, before he needed anyone to believe he was from America. He was just telling us the truth. And it said right there, he was born in Kenya and he was raised in Indonesia. That was enough for me to understand he's from Kenya. Because back then he had nothing to prove. He didn't need you. Why does it matter if he's from America or not? I mean, immigration is legal if you do it the right way. We're going to get to that in a minute. And let's say you're born in Kenya, you're raised in Indonesia, and then you migrate to the United States. There's nothing wrong with that. You can do that. Problem is you can't become president. So you can't become president if you weren't born in the United States. That's the law. So when it became, hey, I might have a chance to be president, all of a sudden he had to be from Hawaii. And Candace Owens detailed this in one of her recent videos. I'll tell you what she said, but you should go watch it so you can get the full context. Is that, well, she didn't only say it, she showed it. That during this time, during the whole birther thing, when Donald Trump was claiming Barack Obama is from Kenya, this is what Barack Obama did. He wrote a letter to the powers that be, like the governing body in the state of Hawaii, where he was claiming to be from. He was claiming that he was born in Hawaii, right? So the official story is Barack Obama was born in Hawaii. I'm saying the truth is that Barack Obama was born in Kenya. So this is what he did to prove that he was born in Hawaii. He writes a letter to the people in Hawaii and he says, hey, could you send me a physical copy of my birth certificate and 2 copies of my certified copies of my birth certificate? Obviously, because at this time, this is when he's well known. This is like he's the president at this point. He writes this letter. So, of course, he gets an immediate response from the state. And because sometimes you ask for these documents from the state, any of you ever asked the state for documents, you might be waiting weeks or a month before you get those documents. He got a response in like 3 days. And the woman writes him back and says, sure, Mr. Obama, we know that you could use these. We'll make sure that we get you 2 copies and we will expedite the process because our office has been getting a lot of calls about this birth certificate because you can request documents of anybody. Right? You can call any state and request the birth certificate of any person if you know their name and they had to send it to you. You had to pay, but they'll send it to you. So they are going to send the documents to Barack Obama, and the woman writes him back and says, we've been getting so many requests about this. We would love to basically settle this issue. So we're going to send you these as quickly as possible. So they sent Barack Obama the birth certificate, right? And he puts it out there. Hey, here's the proof that I'm from Hawaii. I'm not from Kenya, like racist Donald Trump is saying. That was the official story back then when Trump first started saying these things. So there's these guys online, and Candace put this in her video. Go watch the video. She explains it, where these guys looked at the birth certificate and they went and got some forensic investigators. And forensic investigators, basically people who can find things like, amongst other things, they can find forgery, they can find fraud, any type of document fraud, et cetera, et cetera. And they found another birth certificate from the same time period in the same state of Hawaii. And they compared the two of them together, and they showed this, that all they did was copy and paste one person who we don't know, their birth certificate, and then they just swapped the information of Barack Obama and pasted it onto the other birth certificate, sent that to Obama. He presented that to the world and say, hey, everybody, here's proof that I'm from Hawaii. Barack Obama is not from Hawaii. Barack Obama is from Kenya. And again, that's forensic. And again, they went and sent it to like a couple forensic investigators. Like these people, they basically do the detail and find paperwork fraud for a living. This is their full-time profession. They said, to the best of our knowledge, if you had to ask us, if we were in a court of law and asked on the stand, is this real or is this fake? This is fake. This guy's not from Hawaii. I didn't even need that. I just told you how I go off of. I go off of what story gets told when you don't need anyone to believe a story. What do you tell them? What do you say when you don't need anybody to believe one thing or another? And this is the reason why I know that Kamala's dad ain't Jamaican, because Judge Joe Brown said, when I met his dad back in the day, before anybody thought Kamala was going to be anything, he said, I'm Irish and Hindu. That's what Kamala's dad introduced himself to Judge Joe Brown as Irish and Hindu. Nothing about Jamaica. That's how I knew that her dad ain't Jamaican. That's all I needed to know, because there was no need for you to believe anything about him back then. Because again, you can be Irish and Hindu and live in America. There's nothing wrong with that. Immigration is legal if you do it the right way. But then all of a sudden, when she needed to be black, now it's Jamaica. Now she's from Jamaica. Okay. Same thing with Barack Obama. When it didn't matter, the publisher said, Barry Soetoro, that's his name. Barack Obama's real name is Barry Soetoro, in case any of you didn't know. Barry Soetoro was born in Kenya and raised in Indonesia. All right. Barry Soetoro, and then for Barack, to show up in Chicago, and I don't mind if you want to change your name. All right, let's call him Barack. All right. To show up in Chicago amongst the men and say, I got to talk to the brothers about supporting a black woman. First of all, Barack Obama ain't from nowhere that black people call each other brothers. He was raised by his grandparents who were white. Again, have no problem with them being white. Barack Obama ain't from the hood. But he was able to leverage all this in 2008. And he had people who are from the hood, Jay-Z, LeBron James, amongst many others, to support him and get him into the White House and win 2 elections. And he ain't even from America. All right, this is a thing that I haven't heard anyone other than Candace Owens, anyone who has a big audience. I mean, aside from Donald Trump, let's not count him. But other than Candace Owens, haven't heard anybody else really talking about this in depth. Now, there's a reason for that. I do have to give benefit of the doubt. There's a reason for that the White House can put pressure on social media companies to suppress or bolster any message that they want to suppress or bolster. And back then, 2008, 2012, the 2 cycles that Barack Obama won, they could pretty much keep anything quiet that they wanted to. I 100% believe Candace Owens is not the first person to mention these things. She's not the first one to bring this up, that Barack Obama is really Barry Soetoro, and he's from Kenya and he was raised in Indonesia. She's not the first one to bring it up, but she's the most prominent one to do it. And she could do it now in 2024 because it's harder to suppress a message on the internet now than it was 16 years ago. 16 years ago, you could pretty much suppress something if you wanted to, because it wasn't so much and there weren't so many creators and it wasn't so easy to put a message out. Now it's super easy. There's a ton of people and you can't suppress something once it comes out. And that's the difference now as opposed to back then. And again, it wasn't that long ago, but this is the issue. Okay, so that's all I got to say about Barack Obama. Let's keep moving. Kamala Harris. Let's go back to Kamala Harris. One of the things about Donald Trump that has been used against him, we're talking about both of them here. We're talking about immigration. This is the topic right now. Immigration. I don't know how all of you feel about the concept of immigration, but there's a lot of language games being played here, which I'm going to explain and break down and expose. And then we're going to compare and contrast the 2 candidates. So Donald Trump has been saying since his first run in 2016 that He wants to build a wall, and build a wall. He didn't literally mean, he kind of sort of literally meant build a wall, but not really. The concept of building a wall is a metaphor. Those of you know what a metaphor is. A metaphor is it's a device that is used to basically suffice for something else. The concept of building a wall means we're going to protect our borders and we're going to enforce our immigration laws. That's what build a wall meant. Now, people when you don't like a person, you tend to take everything they say literally and you dissect it and try to find the flaw in what they say. That's what you do when you don't like someone. You take whatever they say, you dissect it down to the detail, and you basically do what a prosecutor does and try to make them wrong based on a letter of what they said. When you agree with someone, you follow what they're saying directionally, meaning you understand the concept, even if the literal translation of the verbiage was not perfect. For example, if you have a 4-year-old child and they tell you something, they might not say it in perfect language, but because they're your child and you love them, you give them the benefit of the doubt and you understand what they're trying to say, even if they don't say it perfectly. Does everybody understand that? Now, if you hate somebody, you're going to take whatever they say and you're going to try to dissect it and make them wrong just because you're looking for a reason to go against them. This is what people do with Donald Trump. People hate Donald Trump, so they take anything he said and try to make it literal. So when he said build a wall, people who don't like him say, well, he said he was going to build a wall. He didn't build a wall. It's not the fucking point. The concept of build a wall means we're going to protect our borders and we're not going to keep letting people just come into our country undocumented. That's what build a wall meant. And when Donald Trump said build a wall, he went on to say that other countries are bringing in immigrants. And Donald Trump never said there was a problem with an immigrant, period, because his wife is not American, right? She's not American born. All right. She comes from outside the country. I don't remember what country she's from. It's irrelevant to this conversation. But Donald Trump, I doubt, has a problem with immigrants, period. What he was saying was that these other countries are not sending their best people. They're sending people who have been criminals, people who are violent, people who are in gangs, people who deal drugs. They're sending their worst people to us. And he was not lying. The way that he said it, people got so emotional about it and so reactive about it that they said, well, Donald Trump's just calling all immigrants these negative, terrible things. No, that's not what he said. And you go listen to what he said. He said they're not sending their best. And then he started listing the type of people that are being sent. And guess what, everybody? He wasn't lying. See, here's the interesting thing about Donald Trump. See, he's not like me. I'm the type of person that, let's say I say something and a bunch of people run with something that I said and they try to misconstrue it and make it seem like I said something different. I'm the type of person who would go back and say, no, you said I said this. No, I actually said this. And you said that. No, I actually said. I would actually correct the record. Donald Trump doesn't even bother to correct the record. He just lets people keep lying. And it actually works for him. That's his personality. I'm not saying he's doing anything wrong, but that works for him. That's his style, his communication style. But what people did is they made it seem like, again, like he was lying. He wasn't lying, because these other countries, I don't know if any of you is from these countries to the south of America, the Venezuelas, the Mexicos, that these countries are actually doing what he said. They are taking their prisons and their jails, and they are taking the people out of the prisons and the jails, and they're sending them to the United States to get rid of the problem. All right, these criminals in our countries, let's get them out of here. Let's go send them to the United States of America. We know America is not going to kick them back, so they are no longer our problem. We'll make them America's problem. That's not some theory. That's literally happening, folks. If you didn't know, that is literally happening. All right, that's happening. And people start saying, well, he's xenophobic. He doesn't like people coming from other countries, or he's racist, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And some of you already believe that. You've been believing that about Trump for over 10 years. I'm not here to change your mind. So just in case any of you thought that, I'm not in the business of changing people's minds. I'm just in the business of telling you objectively and logically what I'm seeing. If you happen to disagree, you have a right to disagree. I'm not in the business of changing them. I'm not trying to get any of you to think differently than how you think if you don't want to. Okay. Now, continuing on what I'm saying here. Let's look at Kamala Harris. Actually, before I get to Harris, Donald Trump says that he's going to have a deportation program. He's going to get all the illegals out of the country. Let's talk about that, because people want to dive into the details of that as well. So I will say again, and some people will say, well, you're just trying to explain away what Donald Trump says. Fine, if that's what you believe. I just explained to you that he speaks in metaphors. He's a salesperson. So what salespeople do. They speak in metaphors. They try to give you a visual. Do not take everything they say literally. If I'm selling a used Toyota, I say this is the best car that money can buy. All right. Is it really the best car that money can buy? Literally, no. But I'm allowed to say it. In legal terms, it's called puffery. You talk up what you're selling to get people to want it. And you give them visuals and you give them metaphors. So if I was selling you a horse that can jump over a fence, I would say this horse can jump over the damn Grand Canyon. All right. It's called puffery. It's actually a legal term that can be used in court. Donald Trump speaks in that way. He speaks directionally, not literally. So I speak literally. He speaks directionally. So when he says we're going to do this mass deportation and get all these illegals out of the country, are they really going to have big buses and tanks and they're just going to go grab people out of their houses and throw them in a bus and throw them in shackles and drive them away? No, that's not what he's going to do. Is that actually going to happen? Of course it's not going to happen, because if he wins, there's no way he can get Congress to go along with that. No way, because anyone in Congress who voted for that is going to get it used against them in their election, and they don't want that. That is not going to happen. So is he actually going to do some mass deportation program, or the way that people are visualizing it? No, he is not going to do that. And at the same time, are they going to get some illegals out of the country? Yes. And should they? Absolutely they should. If you live in the United States of America, we have laws for what you can do to get into this country, and we have laws for what you can't do. And if you go against the law, you are here illegally. And that's just the law. All right, the law is the law. The law in the book says to be here legally, you have to go through this process. And if you don't go through this process and you're here without proper documentation, you are technically, by letter of the law, an illegal immigrant, and you should be kicked out and sent back to wherever it is that you came from, which ain't really our business, but you shouldn't be here. All right, that's the law on the books. Now, here's the issue. There are a couple issues here. First of all, one is, let's keep it on Trump first, and then we'll bounce over to Kamala, because there's a bigger issue, I believe, with Kamala, but some of you may disagree, which is completely fine. That some people are saying, well, if they do a mass deportation, it's going to hurt all the companies and the factories and the farms who use an undocumented or illegal, let's call them illegal. If you're undocumented, you're illegal. Now, if you don't have proper legal documents, that means you're illegal, literally. So again, undocumented is a word bullshit game. I don't play language games. I'll tell you the literal language, what it is. Undocumented is illegal. So people say, well, there are a lot of companies who use illegal immigrants. So if you were to actually deport all of them, it would hurt all the businesses that now don't have that cheap labor for hire. And who's going to take those jobs? Let's address that. First thing is, when you allow illegal people into the country, they are starting to compete for jobs with legal citizens. Let me ask you a question. Before let's just say because Obama was big on allowing illegals into the country too. Before Obama, let's just say pre-Obama, so all the way up through the George W. Bush years, were there people working in factories? Were there people working on farms? Were there low-wage employees who had jobs? Yeah, of course there were. All right, these industries did not just all of a sudden appear when the Biden-Harris administration started allowing illegals into the country. This is not some new breakthrough in technology that, oh, let's allow illegals into the country. So now these companies have people that they can hire, because before that they had no employees. They got this big farm and all this work that needs to be done, and nobody wants the job, so we can't get anything done. This did not just start happening. If less illegals were allowed into the country and the people who are here illegally were kicked out as they should be, then those industries would find a way. All right. Entrepreneurs are innovators. All right. They find ways to solve problems. That's literally what an entrepreneur does, is solve problems all day. If I run a business and I got a bunch of illegal people working for me who for $5 an hour, and then Donald Trump rounds a bunch of them up and kicks them out, now I don't have employees. Guess what? I will figure it out. Why? Because I run a business. It's my job to figure it out. So this whole concept that industries are going to collapse if you kick out the illegals is complete bullshit. They will not collapse, because America has been running as a capitalistic society for decades, way before we started allowing a whole bunch of illegals into the country. So it's a nonsense argument. It will always be figured out. And if you're an entrepreneur, you understand what I'm saying. If you're not an entrepreneur, then you don't understand what I'm saying. So please don't push back on a point of something that you know nothing about. Entrepreneurs solve problems for a living. That is literally our job, solving problems. The more problems we solve, the more money we make. That's how business works. So Barack Obama was to kick a bunch of, not Barack Obama, excuse me, Donald Trump was to kick a bunch of illegals out of the country. First of all, he should. I don't know how exactly he would do it. This is one of the reasons why they're not going to do a mass program, because he has no way of actually finding these people. And at the same time, we should be more strongly enforcing our borders. So let's compare and contrast the two candidates where we bounce over to Vice President Harris. During the Trump administration, documented illegals, like ones that they have been counted, about 2 million illegal people came into America during the Trump years, 2017 through 2020. 2 million illegal immigrants. During the Biden-Harris administration, right now, the one happening right now, 12 million illegals. 12 million illegals. Now, how did that happen? Donald Trump set all of these laws and executive orders is really what he did. A bunch of executive orders to basically close the border, quote unquote, close it. 2 million people getting in is actually a pretty normal number, because any of you who has been to the state of Texas or just look at it on a map, is a very big state. We don't have enough manpower to watch the entire border. So people do figure out ways to get in. But 2 million undocumented under Trump, 12 million under Harris. Now, how did 12 million more get in? Did all of these illegal immigrants just all of a sudden get really smart and really tricky in terms of how to get into the country? As soon as Biden became president, they just got smarter than they were under Trump? Of course not. So how did so many more get in? Easy, because they wanted them to come in. The Biden-Harris administration wanted illegal immigrants to come into the country. Again, this is not my theory. This is actually what happened. And how do we know it's not a theory? Because during the first 30 days of the Joe Biden administration in 2021, he got sworn in January 2021, Joe Biden issued a whole bunch of executive orders that did two things. Number one, he struck down a whole bunch of the rules that Trump put in place to secure the border and close the border. He struck them down, meaning the border became open again. Then he created more executive orders of his own making that allowed people who were caught coming across the border to not get sent back, but to allow them to stay in the United States. That happened. Those are actual facts. And this is the reason why 12 million undocumented have come in illegal, have come in under Biden, whereas only 2 million under Trump. They did this by design. This was not some accident. This was by design. And according to people who I've heard in the media space, that not only can you get into the country nowadays through the southern border, that they're actually getting flown in. Like, how do you think? And this is the other thing that happened when if y'all remember a couple of years ago, when Biden first allowed the border to get open and all these illegals are coming in, the governor of the state of Texas, I believe that's Governor Abbott, he was complaining like, yo, what are we supposed to do with all these people? Y'all are allowing these people in. Y'all are not securing the border, and y'all just allowing these people to flood into my state. What are we supposed to do about this? And the Biden administration pretty much said, hey, it's up to you. We're letting these people in. We're not kicking them out. You got to figure it out, Governor. That's basically what the administration said to Governor Abbott in Texas. So what did he do? Y'all remember what happened? Any of you know what happened? Y'all remember what happened? The governor of Texas, what he did then, he got a whole bunch of buses. He gathered up all these illegals who he couldn't kick them back out of the country. He basically put them on buses and started sending them to Democratic cities. That's what he did. Y'all remember that? He started sending them to other cities. So a bunch of them people, and any of you who lives in a big blue city, tell me if any of these people arrived in your city. He started sending them to Chicago. He started sending them to New York. He was sending them to places. He was sending them to cities in Ohio. He was sending them to these places. He sent them to these places like, okay, we're going to make this everybody's problem. And we're going to ship them only to blue cities because the governor of Texas is a Republican. He started sending them to blue cities. Any of you live in New York? Any of you live in New York City? All right. Have y'all seen these people? I know we got some people who live in New York City here. Springfield, Ohio. Absolutely. Yeah, we know Trump with their eating the dogs. So and they send a bunch of them to New York City. He sent a bunch of them to Chicago. And let's just go with those two cities. In Chicago, y'all should have seen this story. You can look it up. If you don't believe me, don't take anything I'm saying at my word. Go look it up and you can verify anything that I'm saying. In the city of Chicago, they sent buses full of these illegal people into the country. And the city of Chicago said, well, what are we going to do with them? Here's what they did. They took a recreation center that the kids who are legally in Chicago, actual citizens, they took a recreation center that the kids play at, and they closed it to the public so they could house the illegal immigrants and put them inside the rec center. So think about that. The park that you send your kids to go play at after school got closed down because a bunch of illegal immigrants who came from the southern border got bussed into your town, and now they closed down the rec center. Your kid can't play there anymore because they put a bunch of illegal immigrants into the rec center. That happened. That's happening right now in Chicago. In the city of New York, same thing. They didn't do rec centers in New York. No, they use hotels. So in the city of New York, they send a bunch of these illegals to New York on buses. And again, they just arrived on a bus from Texas. And the mayor of New York is Eric Adams, a black guy, also a Democrat. He figured, all right, we got to do something. We can't just leave these people on the streets. So what he does is he puts these people into hotels. So these illegal immigrants are staying in hotels in New York City right now. Now, let me ask you a question. Any of you live in a city where there's homeless people walking around? And now these are American citizens, but they're just homeless. How many times have you seen them get put into a hotel and they can just stay there for as long as they want? I ain't never seen that. I see the same homeless people sleeping on the same corners, sitting on the same park benches all the time in my city. I've never seen them get put into a hotel. And I've never seen them get put into a rec center. In New York, he started putting them in the hotels. Now, here's what Eric Adams did. And those of you who follow politics or you follow news, you may have heard about this. Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, he started criticizing the Biden-Harris administration for this problem. He started criticizing them publicly, saying, even though he's a Democrat and they're Democrats, he started criticizing his own team for what they did. And now you want to put all these pieces together. If you didn't notice, the mayor of New York, Eric Adams, what's he dealing with right now? Somebody tell me what Eric Adams is dealing with right now. Anybody know? Somebody on TikTok has to know. There's a bunch of y'all on TikTok. Maybe some of you on YouTube might know, or Instagram. You know what Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, is dealing with right now? Does any of you know what's happening? Ricky got it. Ricky Shaw on TikTok. He just said it. Rick Shaw, indictment. Eric Adams is under investigation now. He got indicted by the federal government after he criticized the Biden-Harris administration. So some of you may say, well, maybe he just did a crime. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Okay, if you think so, I got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. All right, that's not how it works. That ain't how it works. All right, as soon as he started criticizing his own party, all of a sudden, he got indicted. All of a sudden, he's under investigation. And y'all want the federal government to have more control over your life? Okay. Okay. All right. Political persecution. Exactly. So those 4 cases that Donald Trump has, you think that's just coincidence? Look at the 4 cases that he has, since we're on the subject. Look at the 4, and we're going to get back to this immigration thing. I'm not done. But these 4 cases that Donald Trump has, if I can remember all 4. So number 1 in New York was allegedly that he did fraud, right? Fraud in New York. This is the one where the woman, Letitia James, was talking about she might take away the Trump building if he can't pay. He ended up paying, but he's going to get that money back because that case is going to get appealed. But the fraud was some documentation that he allegedly didn't do the right way when he was running for president back in 2016. They pulled this up, made a case out of it. It happened in 2016. Why'd they just bring it to court in 2024? Because they were holding it, waiting to use it against him if he tried to run for president again. Again, look it up. That's why they did it. It happened in 2016. It didn't go to court till 2024 because they didn't even make a case out of it until now. They held on to it and just waited for an opportunity to do it to him. That's one. The second one was the SA case. I can't say that phrase, with this woman, E. Jean Carroll, the woman that he allegedly R-worded back in like 1980 or something like that, 1990, whenever it was. And here's the thing. There's a statute of limitations on the R word. So they couldn't bring him to court on a criminal charge. So what they did was they brought him to court on a civil charge. So that was a civil case. So that SA thing, or people saying, well, you can't vote for Trump because he's a RAPIST. You can't vote for him because he's that. All right. That's a civil case. It's not a legal case. He was never criminally convicted of anything. There's a civil case and he got found guilty. I believe it was libel, just talking bad about her basically is what it is. And how much was that settlement? How much that settlement Trump got on her was like $90 million. $90 million because he said something about this woman, about something that allegedly happened like 30 years ago. That was the second case they did against Trump. And again, they held on to this until he started running for president again. Again, if this happened in the 90s, why is it just now going to court? Again, there's a statute of limitations on this stuff, but they made a civil case out of this. And I'm going to tell you why they did this. Then here's the third case. The third case is in the state of Georgia. This is the woman. What's that chick in Georgia that was being really defiant on the stand? I forgot her name. Fani Willis. Yeah, Fani Willis in Georgia. Fani Willis in Georgia with her boyfriend that she hired to be the counsel on the case. They're trying to get him on a RICO charge. A RICO charge basically means a conspiracy to commit a crime. That's what they're trying to get him on because in 2020, when Trump was questioning the outcome of the election, which is legal, by the way, it is legal to question the outcome of an election. Any of you think that's illegal? It's not illegal. It's legal. When he questioned the outcome of the election, he was calling around to the governor, Kemp, in Georgia, to try to get him to figure out what happened and to find the votes that Trump, he believed were missing. Trump rightfully believed they were missing. Now, were they missing? It turns out they never ended up finding them, but he was looking for them. That's not a crime. So they try to make a crime out of this. That's the reason that you have the case in Georgia that he allegedly is committing a conspiracy to try to basically overturn the results of an election. It's a bullshit case. That's going to get thrown out. So that E. Jean Carroll one, I believe, is going to come down on appeal. He's going to get his money back. The Letitia James one on fraud, I believe that one's going to get killed on appeal. He's going to get his money back. The Georgia one is going to get killed before they even get any further, because the woman and her lover, they messed up. So that one's going to fall apart. And the fourth one is this guy, Jack Smith. He's probably the best of the four people going after Trump. So you had Bragg in New York, you had James in New York, you had Fonnie Willis in Georgia, and now you got this guy, Jack Smith. Now, he is a special counsel who is trying to get Trump on some case about documents, that he took some documents from the White House and he took them to his house in Mar-a-Lago. Y'all seen those pictures? We got all these documents in the bathroom because he got this big mansion in Mar-a-Lago, and he's trying to get him on that. The problem with that one is the Supreme Court has kicked it back and said that you can't get him for certain things. So they're trying to basically rework this case to try to go against him. That's the only one that still has legs. And that case could possibly get Trump incarcerated if he loses this election. If he loses today, he could possibly get incarcerated for that one. It's not done yet, but we'll see. And also the other thing is he's going to get sentenced, I believe, like 3 weeks from now. He's going to get sentenced for the fraud case in New York. And the judge in that case could have sentenced him back in September, but he didn't do it. He said, I don't want to interfere with the election, so we're going to wait till after the election to do the sentencing. So Trump could actually win the election today and 3 weeks from now get sentenced to jail. Like, that literally could happen. All right, that would be crazy. And all of this, I'm bringing all these four cases up to tell you this. This is what we call lawfare. So someone called it political persecution, same thing. So you got warfare. Everybody knows what warfare is. Warfare is guns and tanks and doing things to hurt people. Lawfare is when you do the same thing, but you use the courts. That's what they did to Trump. That's what they did to him. All right, they did lawfare to him. They said, okay, we can't get you. We can't physically hurt you. All right, that wouldn't work. So here's what we're going to do. Oh, actually, it will work. We tried. We're going to get to that in a second. Let's try to get you in the courts. We're going to try to, first of all, we're going to try to put you in jail. We're going to take all your money. We're going to try to do one of those. Neither one of them worked. Now, there's a guy, and he said this before that. He said this, he was talking about himself. He said this a couple of years ago. Now, all of you know this guy. He's a bald-headed guy. He lives in Romania. His first name starts with the letter A, and he has a brother whose name starts with the letter T. You know who I'm talking about? That guy who's all over the internet, and he got banned off all the social media platforms. That guy who walks around with no shirt on all the time, used to be a fighter. That guy, you know what I'm talking about? That guy? A-T. Yeah, Rick Shaw, be careful typing his name. They kicked me off. They took one of my videos down on TikTok when I said his name in the video. I said his name. They took him down. But Rick Shaw said his name. That guy, A-T, A-N-D-R-E-W, that guy. So one of the things that he said was that there are 3 steps when you go against the system, or he calls it the matrix. When you go against the matrix, there are 3 things they do. Number 1, they try to silence you. So that's what they did to him. They kick you off all the social media apps. Y'all remember in January 2021 when all the social media apps kicked Donald Trump off? Remember that? After January 6th. They kicked him off Instagram. They kicked him off Twitter. They kicked him off YouTube. They kicked him off Facebook. They all banned him all at the same time because he is threatening democracy. Remember that? So that's the first thing they do. They try to silence you. They take away your ability to reach the people. Second thing they do, if that doesn't work, second thing they do is try to take all your money. Second thing is they try to take all your money. That means, and look what happened to the guy in Romania. Look what happened to Trump. Same things happen. So the guy in Romania, they confiscated a bunch of his money and they confiscated a bunch of his cars and stuff because he's a big cars guy. So he has all these supercars that he calls them, like 20, 30, 50 supercars. They came and took away all his cars. That's the next thing. They try to take all your assets. That's what they did to Trump. These 4 cases that I just told you about, it's all about taking his money. So you hit him with the fraud thing and he hasn't paid his big fine, like $200 million. And he got to pay this woman $100 million. And now they're taking him to court and all these other things. To the average person, the money you had to pay just to pay your lawyers could put you out of business. So Trump just happened to have the money, but they were threatening to take stuff away if he didn't have the money. And they're using this all against him. Next thing they do is they try to incarcerate you. So they did it to the guy in Romania, Mr. AT. Did they put him in jail? They put him in jail. And they put him in with no charge. They put him in with no case. They put him in with, he didn't even go to trial. They just held him in jail for a couple months and then they let him out. And they're still trying to find a case on him. Out of what? Because he's allegedly a trafficker, allegedly, but they haven't proven it. They haven't brought a case. They had documentation. Documentation is paper thin nonsense, but they're trying to use that against him. And the whole point of bringing a court case against you is not necessarily because they think they're going to prove you guilty and incarcerate you on that. The whole point of bringing a case is to undermine your credibility. That's the reason why they did the thing with Trump. Because when you hear a lot of people talking about Trump these days, what do they say? Well, this guy is a convicted RAPIST. He has committed fraud. He's been bankrupt all these times. He has all these court cases. He has 34 felony charges. Don't people say that when they say why they can't support Trump? All of that is done, and it did exactly what his job is. The job of putting court cases on you is not necessarily to get a conviction and put you behind bars. The point is to undermine your credibility with the public, and they did that successfully. So there's a bunch of you who would never support Trump, not for any of the other things we talked about here today, but just because he has all those court cases on him. That means that the system did exactly what it was supposed to do, which is undermine his credibility in your eyes because he has all these court cases. So that must mean he's guilty. Next time you see someone faced with a court case, do not assume that they are a bad person or guilty just because they have a court case, because the legal system is supposed to be blind justice. In the United States of America, justice is not blind. United States of America, if you want to stay free, if you ever end up in a court situation, let me help you out. Don't be broke. I just want to let that line sit there for a second. Any of you know anyone who's been into the court system in America, or any of you been into the court system, the judicial system, civil cases, criminal cases? The easiest way to stay free is to have money. And the easiest way to get behind those bars is to not have money. The justice system is not about justice. It's about money. If you think the justice system in America is about justice, all right, be broke and end up in the courts, and you'll find out really quickly what justice system is really about. Because people who have money, they can afford good lawyers, and good lawyers know how to they can get you pretty much out of anything. All right, why do you think OJ got found not guilty? Because he had money and he had really, really good lawyers. That's why he got found not guilty. If OJ was an average dude making $50,000 a year and he had a public defender, would he have gotten off on that case? Hell no. He'd still be in jail right now. He would have died in jail if he didn't have money. The justice system in America is not about justice. So next time, again, you want to condemn a person because they have a court case, even if they got found guilty, think twice. Doesn't mean they're not guilty, but think twice. The justice system is all about, can you afford your freedom? The United States of America is a capitalistic society, and this is one of the byproducts of it. You have to be able to afford your freedom. You have to be able to afford to prove that you're not guilty. You can't afford it. Like, look at Trump. If he didn't have good lawyers, he would have got found guilty on all 4 of those cases, and it pretty much would be over. It'd be done. But because he has money, he's able to defend himself. And again, any of you who's been in the court system, please point this out. Please co-sign what I'm saying here. Any of you who has been, or knows anyone who's been in the court system and has been run through the ringer of the court system, tell me that if I'm wrong, please let me know. United States of America's legal system is about money. It is not about justice. It's not even about the truth. It's just about what you can prove. Y'all see the movie Training Day with Denzel Washington? Remember that movie? What did he keep saying to the cop when the cop kept pointing out, that white cop, Hoyt, kept saying to Denzel, like, yo, you're a dirty cop. He didn't say that in so many words, but Denzel could tell that the white guy was realizing that Denzel was a dirty cop, right? And what did he keep saying to him? He said, it's not about what you know, it's about what you can prove. Then he keeps saying that to him. It ain't about what you know, it's about what you can prove. And what Denzel was telling him indirectly was that, yeah, you see me doing dirty cop stuff, but can you prove it? You won't be able to prove this. I got more power than you. I got more connections than you. You're just some nobody rookie cop. You ain't going to be able to prove that I'm dirty. You saw me being dirty, but can you prove it in court? You ain't going to be able to prove shit. And that's what he kept telling him over and over again, right? It's the same thing in the United States. Just because you know it doesn't mean you can prove it. And if you want to prove something legally in the United States, you better be able to afford the proof. That means paying lawyers, and lawyers are not cheap. You want to make money, become a lawyer. I ain't saying anything else good about the profession, but you will make money if you're a lawyer, at least if you're a good one. So anyway, back to what I was talking about. This is not even what I was supposed to be talking about. I diverted from the topic. Kamala Harris, when it comes back to immigration, all you hear Kamala Harris mentioning is this phrase. She says, pathway to citizenship. Y'all hear this? Pathway to citizenship. She keeps saying that. We want to provide a pathway to citizenship because she's preaching to people she's mostly preaching to minorities. She's trying to get the majority of the minority vote, which she will get. She's not getting all of it, not nowhere close to what Obama got, but she's getting a good amount. And she's preaching this pathway to citizenship thing because here's the game. All right, all these illegal people that have come into the country over the last 3.5, almost 4 years under Biden and Harris. Here's what they're doing. Right now, those people are technically not illegal. What they have is legal status. If you saw the debate between J.D. Vance and Tim Walz, the 2 vice president candidates, J.D. Vance pointed out these he pointed out these illegal people who've come into the country, because JD Vance is from the state of Ohio, and Springfield is the place where Donald Trump was saying they're eating the dogs and they're eating the cats. Now, are they actually doing that? I don't know. Not even the point. The point is you remember it, that he said it. But JD Vance pointed out these illegals in the state of Ohio, and the moderator, who wasn't supposed to be fact checking, she fact checks him when they literally said the rules are we will not fact check. She fact checks him, and she says the migrants in Ohio have been granted legal status. That phrase is very important. Why does that phrase matter? Because people who would actually, let me back up. Let me ask a question. Any of you has come to this country as a immigrant and you became a citizen? How long did it take from the time you got here to the time you were granted citizenship? How much time did it take? Or any of you who knows someone who has gone through that process, how long did it take from the time you or that person got here to the time you actually were granted citizenship and you had the paperwork? How much time had passed? How long did that take? Okay, so King Osa says 10 years. Liz says 10 years. Alejandro says 10 years for my aunt. Partly Cloudy says 4 years for someone I know. Modern Sabrina says 5 years. All right, that's how long it takes. To become a citizen in America takes years, not months, not weeks. Here's what's happening right now in America with these migrants that Biden and Harris are letting in. They are granting them legal status. They're not citizens, but they're granting them legal status, which means they are technically not illegal right now because they have a temporary legal status that allows them to stay in the country. They're getting this within like a week. You come into the country, within a week, you have legal status, which means you can stay. So if you get caught by some cop or the border patrol agents, which again, ain't no border patrol agents walking around fucking Ohio. But if you were to get caught, you have temporary legal status. Now, this temporary legal status, this is the reason why Kamala keeps using this phrase, pathway to citizenship, because what is she saying? This is the dog whistle. The dog whistle is if you're outside of the country right now, you should come here to America because, first of all, under our administration, we're going to let you in. And if she wins, it's just going to keep going because there'll be no break. If she wins, the Biden administration still goes until January, and then she takes over. They're going to keep doing it. So she's sending the dog whistle to the rest of the world. Come to the southern border. We're going to let you in. We're going to give you temporary legal status, and we're going to provide you a pathway to citizenship, which means what? Now you can vote. See, this is the long game. So y'all thought these people were stupid. They ain't stupid. Because if she wins 2024, now all these illegals, quote unquote illegals who came into the country, by 2028, guess what they're going to have? Citizenship. And guess what they're going to do? Guess what citizens can do, everybody? They can vote. And guess what they're going to vote for? The Democrat. See, y'all think these people are dumb. They ain't dumb. These people are smart. They know exactly what they're doing. Crespo said, my mother is from Cuba, married my dad, Puerto Rican. She became a resident immediately, but that was in the 50s. Yeah, that was back before the flood. Right. But these days, this happens. It takes years to become a citizen. And some people could be here for years and they don't get it. They might need to keep renewing their visa, or you got to take that test. To become a citizen from outside of USA, you got to take a test and pass it. None of us had to take the test. You get born in America, you ain't got to take the test. Most Americans probably couldn't even pass the test. But if you come here as an immigrant, you got to take the test. And if you fail, you got to take it again. And you got to keep taking it until you pass it. Then they let you stay in the country. So it's crazy. And again, this takes years to become a citizen. They're giving these people legal status within weeks. And then Kamala is promising a pathway to citizenship. So if she wins and Democrats have control of Congress, then she can create bills and laws. Well, they'll create the bills. She'll sign it into law to where any migrant who comes into this country gets temporary legal status immediately. And it may go from being 10 years to become a citizen and having to jump through all these hoops. So all of you who are leaving comments saying how long it took to become a citizen, think about all the stuff the person had to do, whether it was you or someone else, to actually become a citizen. You either had to pass some tests, you had to do some documentation, you had to keep going to those damn offices and dealing with those people. You had to do all this stuff to become a citizen. They're going to make it so easy. It's like ordering Uber Eats. That's what they're going to do. That's what she wants to do. It's going to be like ordering Uber Eats to become a citizen in America as soon as you get here. And the reason why they want to fast track this pathway to citizenship, this phrase, keep this phrase in mind, pathway to citizenship. Why? Because they want these people to be eligible to vote. They don't give a damn about immigrants. Why does Kamala Harris care about immigrants? Where she lives? They ain't sending no immigrants where she lives. Kamala Harris lives in a gated community somewhere. They're not affecting her. She ain't hiring them. Kamala Harris ain't no business owner. She ain't hiring no immigrants. If she wins, she's going to be living in the White House. Ain't no immigrants in there. at least not illegal immigrants that got busted in. She does not have to deal with these people at all. All she wants is to execute the Democratic plan, and she's being used for this. They want to bring more people, and guess where they're sending these people? They're sending them to places where sometimes the vote gets split. So they send them somewhere like Ohio, which is generally a red state. They can flip that blue if they send enough people there. Now Ohio is a blue state. So now the electoral votes from the state of Ohio, now those go in the bag for the Democrats every election instead of going in the bag for the Republicans. Let's say they send them to Florida. Now this can be a full blue state. They send them to Pennsylvania, blue state. They send them to Michigan. They send them to Wisconsin. All these swing states you keep hearing about, they can just send them to those places. Colorado, they can send them to these places that are generally red, or they're in between. They call them purple when it's like it could go one way or the other, and they're just going to make these places blue. This is a long-term strategy. They're playing a long game here. This game will last longer than Kamala, because once you get citizenship, I don't know if they can take it away. I don't know if there's a way to take it away. At least under Harris, it won't be allowed. Maybe if a Republican comes in after her, if she wins, then they can take it away. They can undo this, but that's a whole other issue. And if they make it into law, well, now that becomes a Supreme Court case. And let's say she replaces a couple of those justices with left-leaning justices. They're not going to allow that. You see how this goes? This is a big game. They're playing chess here. This is 3D chess that the Democrats are playing. I'm not saying Kamala is playing. I'm saying the Democrats, the people who are smarter than her, they're playing this game. So this pathway to citizenship is a phrase that you should keep in mind, especially if she wins. And even if she loses, if Trump wins today, this pathway to citizenship, you still got to deal with it November, December, and most of January, because the Biden-Harris administration is still in place until January. So think about how many people have come in so far. You know what they're going to do if she loses? Oh, they're going to open the floodgates even more for this next 90 days. They're going to bring in even more people. So, almost 90 days, less than 90 days, but they're going to bring in even more people just at the end before their game is done. So let's move on. I got a couple more points here before we wrap this up. We got to be done before 10 o'clock. I got to call at 10 o'clock. So we're talking about the finish line here, redefining marriage. And I talked about this yesterday, so I'm not going to go too deep on it here today. At least I don't think I am. But this whole concept of, y'all see these ads that the Harris campaign is running, that they'll see two women go into the voting booth and they kind of give each other eye contact and they both vote for Harris. And it's like, your husband doesn't have to know. And he says, did you make the right decision, honey? And she says, I sure did. And he thinks that she voted for Trump. He's this bumbling idiot who voted for Trump. And she's the smart one who voted for Harris. I don't like this concept that the Democratic Party is pushing of going against your significant other just for voting for Harris, because Kamala Harris, if she wins and she wins again, she'll be around for 8 years, but a marriage is for life. So when you marry somebody, you're making a commitment for life, but she's preaching this whole concept of, well, you don't have to listen to go against your husband just to support me. Like, she's temporary. Your husband, you're with that person all day, every day for the rest of your life. You're committed and you may have kids with this person. I don't like this whole concept of them. They're just undermining the concept of marriage, which I'm not a fan of. And Kamala Harris was a BLM supporter. She supported getting people, bailed out of jail during the BLM riots in 2020. And here's what BLM was all about. Y'all remember them, the scam that was called Black Lives Matter. They said on their About Us page, their mission is that we want to disrupt the nuclear family. All right, that phrase alone basically disqualified BLM in my eyes. We want to disrupt the nuclear family, and we want to censor women and children. That's what it said on their site. It didn't even mention men. We want to censor women and children and disrupt the nuclear family. For those of you who know what a nuclear family is, that's man, woman, child. We want to disrupt that. We don't want man, woman, child. We want women and children, no men at all. And Kamala Harris, with this ad, and I know she has a big team putting a bunch of ads out there, but she has to okay everything that comes out. This one I don't like, because she's going against the very concept of marriage. Now, she's married herself, doesn't have any kids of her own, but this whole concept I'm not a fan of, because I am a firm believer that, especially in the Black community where I come from, that the most important thing we need in that community is nuclear families, man, woman, child. Households with kids who don't have man, woman, child, man and woman, mother and father. I mean, the mother and the father, biological, at home. We know those kids don't perform as well. We know that the school to prison pipeline is filled with kids who come from single parent homes. We know this. And we know that young men become violent and they become criminals, and they end up with shortened lives when they don't have fathers at home. So this whole concept of going against marriage period, even though the ad is a white guy and a white woman, and the other woman in the ad, they're all white people because they're trying to make it seem like white women need to vote for Harris because a lot of white women voted for Trump in 2016. I still don't like this concept. I don't care what color the people are. You can't do that. The nuclear family is what, again, Crespo, you said it perfectly. The nuclear family is what God deemed as the thing. Man, woman, child. Anyone going against that concept, I'm not a fan of. Anyone going against this concept of, again, this is all goes back to her with the women's right to choose. All right, first of all, for a woman to become pregnant, you already chose. You chose to allow a man to insert his unprotected reproductive organ into your unprotected reproductive organ. You made a choice when you did that. That's how you got pregnant. So that's already a choice. And the whole concept is supposed to be marriage before carriage. I mean, you're supposed to get married before you start having sex, period. We know a lot of people don't do that these days, but you can at least be smart enough to protect yourself if you don't want to have a child, or you're not going to marry the person you're having sex with. That applies to the man and the woman. But they both make a choice when they decide to have unprotected sex. There's no one here who doesn't understand that that's what happens when you have unprotected sex, that you might conceive a child. So this whole concept of, well, we got to make abortion available for everybody. Well, if people were just more responsible, then you wouldn't have that problem. And I believe one of the ways that people learn responsibility is by having a mother and a father at home. Your mother and your father at home, not a mother and father, your mother and your father at home. The people who actually conceived you, like the people whose genetics you come from, whose DNA you come from, those should be the two people at home. And that's not on the child, that's on the parents. None of you should be having unprotected sex with anybody that you don't want to have a child with and you're not going to marry. If you're already married and you're doing something outside your marriage, I ain't even judging you, but hey, protect yourself. Don't be stupid. Why would you do that? And again, this whole concept of going against the family, I'm really not a fan of. And Kamala Harris is pushing this in her campaign, and she's allowing her team. And again, she has to approve everything that comes out of her team. So she can't feign ignorance of some ad that is supported by her campaign of going against the family. And it kind of also makes sense, though. I mean, she's part of a blended family, which doesn't make her bad. But at the same time, her background, we don't even know what it is. Who's a real mom? Who's a real dad? We don't know. Her dad's still alive. He ain't said a word. Your daughter could possibly become the president of the United States, and he hasn't spoken. He hasn't shown his face, and we don't know anything about him. Doesn't that seem strange to you? Seems strange to me. Even if you didn't grow up with the guy, it seems strange that he's just nowhere to be found in this whole thing. Anyway, let's move on. This government over family thing I just talked about. So next point, this feminism push that women are not free, that women should be leaders of society. I'm also not a fan of, and I'll tell you why I'm not a fan of this. It's not because I'm some chauvinistic male pig. It's because even though I don't claim a religion. I am not Christian, but at the same time, I'll say I respect people who do follow a religion because it means you follow a set of documented principles that you cannot waver from and you can't change at your own convenience. Doesn't mean you follow them perfectly, but you know what they are and you know when you're violating. In the Bible, God created man first, and he didn't want the man to be there alone. So from the rib of the man, he created woman as a helpmate to the man. That's documented in the Bible. That's not my language. That's documented in the Bible. He created man first. He created woman to be a helpmate to the man. The first time there was sin in the world was when the woman, uncovered / unprotected by the man, went and decided on her own to listen to what the lying serpent had to say, which was representation of the devil. She went and bit into the apple. Adam, stupidly, instead of being the leader, he became a follower and listened to what the woman said and bit into the apple himself. And from that point forward, all hell broke loose. I'm paraphrasing it, but that's a rendition of what happened. That when the point being this, God created the man and then the woman, and the whole purpose was, by God's design, the man was supposed to lead and the woman was supposed to be a supporting cast to the man. She was the supporting piece to the man. And as soon as the man stopped doing his job of leading, the woman stepped up and took the lead, and then she made a mistake. The man stupidly followed her, and everything went terrible from there. That's when all hell broke loose. And when God found out what had happened, the first thing that God said when the woman, Eve, bit into the apple was, Adam, where are you? That's the first thing God said. As soon as the woman did the wrong thing, God didn't even address the woman. He addressed the man. He said, where are you? Because if the man had been where he was supposed to be on his post doing his job, then the woman would not have made the mistake. So the first mistake that man ever made in humanity was not doing his job of leading and following a woman. Now, there are some women out there who maybe don't like that I just said that, but I didn't make it up. That's not my story. That's in the Bible. The first mistake a man made was not doing his job of leading a woman and instead getting behind and following a woman. And things went bad from there. That happened. Now, of course, this is a story coming out of the Bible. The Bible is literally a story. At the same time, I believe these principles are what we were built on. I believe humankind was built on these principles, that man is designed to lead, which is why man has been leading for organized society as we know it. Men have always been in the lead. You can't tell me one women army that has ever defeated and conquered anything, ever taken land, ever won a war. There isn't one. There has not been one. That doesn't mean that women can't lead, period. Doesn't mean a woman can't be a CEO, can't start her own business, can't be the head of a household if unfortunately she ends up being one. I'm not saying that a woman can't do any of those things. I'm not saying a woman can't do things and that she's not capable. The natural order of humanity is that the man is in the lead and the woman is designed to be a helpmate to a man. That's the natural order of how things are supposed to be. I truly do believe that. And let me take it a step further. Let's just say that somehow, some way, the United States ends up in combat, all right? Hot combat, not a Cold War, not information war, but real combat, not law war, but actual combat. And whatever country we're fighting against, they start coming into America. All right, so the fight is fought not on their land, but on our land. Let's say a fight happens here in the United States of America. What do you think happens to all the women who say, well, I want to be a leader? All right, you think they're going to want to step up and lead? You think they want to take up arms and be on the front lines? I don't think so. What happens in conflict, when people get into a state of conflict, first thing everybody does is revert back to their natural roles. And in our natural roles, the men will be on the front lines with the guns and women will be in the house making sure that the kids are covered and taken care of. That's what would happen if there was a real war and real battle and real conflict happening in real life right now. That's the way it is. That's the natural order of things. If there was a real war happening, ain't no woman going to be on the front line because she get her head chopped off immediately. That would happen. It wouldn't be a battle. That'd be over. All right. You can't name a woman army that's ever done anything. Name one. Name a woman general who's ever done anything. Name one. Ain't none. That's the whole point. And if Kamala was to win, she would be commander in chief of our armed forces. Now, hopefully we don't end up in any conflicts, whether she wins or not. But that would be a challenging situation. I think we have a strong enough military that even if she's incompetent at that position, I think we still be fine. But someone said Catherine the Great. Okay, I don't know the whole story of Catherine the Great, but let's just say I gave that to you. All right, and now name any others. That exception, let's say that she was a good one, little K. Exceptions prove the rule. So exceptions prove the rule. So let me recap these and I'll take a few questions. I got a call coming up in like 10 minutes. So let me take a few questions. I'm not going to recap. I'll just take these questions. Then we'll close this up, folks. So O-Dog over there on YouTube, what's going on? Good morning. Said Democrats do exactly what they say they will do except for student loan forgiveness. Okay, maybe you're right. Government has no incentive to not fumble. If they fail, they get more funding. Yes, exactly. You're right about that one. Government has more incentive to fail. Yep, you're right about that too. Bumpy Johnson said Trump 2024. Well, we'll see. We'll see in hopefully less than 24 hours. Bumpy said next president will get at least 2 judges and Thomas ain't going to last 4 more years. We'll see. I think it depends on who wins. He might stick around just to make sure that they don't replace him with someone on the other side. Reporter asked Harris, was a woman? Her answer, I was raised by a single mother in the middle class. We had to protect. Oh, that's what she said? She didn't even answer the question. Jackson has proven to be a decent judge so far. Yeah, well, she don't really have any power. Obama and Kamala aren't cultural. Well, Obama is actually black. He's born in Kenya, but Kamala is not black at all. I don't even care about culturally black. I mean, literally black. Birtherism started with Hillary and Samuel Blumenthal. All right. Well, you know, Sidney Blumenthal. Okay. You know something I don't know about that part. Obama went full. I don't know about that. Obama was raised by his white mom and grandparents. Do Mo Henry Kissinger's on as a kid. Yeah, I do know he was raised by his white family members, but he is black. He was born in Kenya. He is black. He just ain't from America. That's the part that I'm challenging with. O-Dog said Barack isn't a sellout. You can't sell out if you never bought in. He has a very convoluted background. Okay, fair enough. Obama was a sellout without buying in. His buying in was his flesh. Same with Kamala. They cheapened themselves, their families, their communities they never knew. Bumpy said, Candace Owens is crazy. She lost it after claiming the French president's wife was a man. Well, she's provided a lot of evidence that wife is a man, Bumpy Johnson. That's what I'm saying. She's brought a lot of evidence that that's a man. Now, are we ever going to know for sure? There's only one way to know for sure. I don't think we're ever going to see that. But I don't think Candace is crazy. I think she's done a lot of great investigative journalism over the last month when it comes to Kamala and Barack. Odell said, when you flood the border with illegal immigrants, you increase the pool of laborers, the less the labor costs, and the wages go down. Yes, good point. Governor Abbott sent them the ones that proclaim themselves to be sanctuary cities, but all those cities just happen to be blue. Yeah, they were saying that because they wanted to make themselves look good. We're sanctuary cities. You could send illegals here. And then he took it literally. And he actually sent them there. And then they start complaining. Bond said Eric Adams will be the fall guy. Hopefully not. We'll see how that investigation goes. O-Dog said, social media word patrol is bullshit. You can't even use proper words to make our point without getting flagged. But you're right about that. Well, they own the platform, so sometimes you got to play the game. Not what you know is what you can prove. That's correct. Ronald Suarez, what's going on? Lil K says, have you studied how cults operate? Do you think MAGA is similar to a cult? Well, a cult can actually be a good thing depending on how you use it. So do I think MAGA is a cult? Yes, but not in a negative way. I think it's a cult in a positive way. Just like if somebody has a fan base. I think CrossFit is a cult, for example. You know, people who do CrossFit, I think CrossFit is a cult, but cult does not have to be negative. Crespo, what's going on? Good morning on Instagram. A cult can be a good thing if you use it the right way. I don't think MAGA is a negative cult. I think it's a positive cult. All right, that's a strong following. And is one of the reasons why if Trump wins is going to be one of the reasons why, because he has a strong cult following. Biden had to follow through on something, and that was an easy one for him. Yes, Harris is not representing black brothers. She married into white. Yes, I agree. So he said they would have called Obama a sellout. Well, he never even would have got that far if he was married to a white woman, honestly. He wouldn't even won the ticket. He would not have beaten Hillary for the Democratic ticket if he was married to a white woman. It's hypocritical to marry into another race and say you are for them. Well, politically, I would say it's hypocritical. It's not hypocritical just as a person, but if you're going to go to them and say, support me because we are all this, then it starts to look kind of crazy. That's the issue, I would say, with Kamala. She didn't say it. Barack Obama said it. That's why I'm talking about Obama, because he's the one who said it. She didn't say that. Barack said it. PJ said, you can feel it. She's not one of us. Well, yeah, we already knew that. I only had to feel it. I just knew that because Judge Joe Brown said it. Send those criminals back. It's disgusting that the Dems created the problems. Yes, they did create the problems, and they want to keep it that way. Crespo, I saw what you said about the incomings. The nuclear family God created from the beginning. That's exactly. Man and woman created by God. Exactly. That's correct. Viant said, what's the most transferable skill from basketball and entrepreneurship? All the mindset that goes with it. Deborah said, it's negative. MAGA is definitely demonic. No, I wouldn't go that far. Let's just say goodbye. I'm done. All right. Well, goodbye. Good to see you. All right. I'll take a couple comments over on TikTok and then we got to wrap up. I only got 5 minutes here. Brooks said the glove didn't fit. Yeah, he had to have a good lawyer to figure that one out. I'm taking comments on TikTok. So if you got anything, we got literally 5 minutes here. Now I got to wrap this up. My bro was sentenced to life without evidence. Yeah, it can happen. Did he have a good lawyer? Did he have a public defender? Parduki? Did he have who did he have defending him? Milf said yes, because America is a business. That's right. The legal system in America is all about business. Rob said Diddy has money. Yes, which is why he has a chance. He has a chance because he has money. Doesn't mean if you have money you'll always end up free, but you got a chance if you have money. If Diddy didn't have money, it'd be over. If he didn't have money, it'd be over. It wouldn't even be anything to talk about. Rick Shaw said you're absolutely correct. Thank you. Linda said, you're right. I know exactly what you're talking about. Thank you. I usually take more time with comments, but today I went long talking about stuff. Tomorrow I'll have more time for comments. So if I miss your comment today, just be here tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Tona said, you're speaking facts. Thank you for being educated. Thank you. Well, some people say I'm the opposite. Some people say I'm lying and I'm uneducated. So I must have said something you felt, but some people say the opposite. Carla said Diddy is a scapegoat for more powerful people. And some people say that. We'll see if he goes to trial, then all that's going to come out. So let's see if he goes to trial. And the pathway is amnesty like a pardon. Yeah, that's what it is. All the elite that are supporting Harris have partied with Diddy. Yeah, Trump partied with Diddy too. So, I mean, everybody partied with Diddy. The problem is nobody wants any of those tapes to come out, just like the Epstein stuff, because people on both sides are going to get exposed. So I think they all want to keep all of that quiet. Rick said JD handled that very professionally. He did. Yes. HB said there's a lady who saw her dog get beheaded. Yeah, I know it definitely has happened. I mean, it may not be like all day, every day, but has it happened? I do believe it has happened. All right, we got 3 minutes here. My grandpa in freaking years with Visa. Yes, years and money. That's right. And I forgot about the money part. Yeah, so they're giving people citizenship, no money, and quick. That's what they're trying to do. Avoka said those are not the people she's referring to. I know that's not who she's referring to. Doesn't mean that's not what's going to happen. That's the whole issue. That's the thing. I am Queen Ace said it used to take a lot longer. A friend as a child moved and didn't get citizenship till adult. Yeah, exactly. And Janet says my husband is no. Janet says she is saying amnesty. Well, it still ends up the same outcome, right? People who came here legally get to stay. That's the issue that Trump is bringing up. And Angel Urbina says my husband and I got married in 2008. He just got his green card in 2023. 15 years. Wow. People need to pay attention to the language they use. Yeah, their language is tricky. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, but a lot of people don't catch it. Rick Shaw said, President Trump warned everyone the 200 million will be here. Yeah, he wasn't lying. He wasn't lying. It will change the trajectory of our company, Kate, the LSU fan, says. I agree with that. It will, and it's changing it already. Jenna said that test isn't easy. I've heard that it's not easy. I think a lot of Americans couldn't pass it. Cheryl said they did this for votes. Oh, absolutely. They did it for votes. That's not that's not an accident. They absolutely did it for votes. And let me just check my email just to make sure, because I got a call coming up in like 3 minutes. Make sure this person didn't. All right, we're good. All right. You won't recognize America if she gets in. We won't have another good president for years. Well, 4 years. We go through a school system. Yeah, but we don't. The tests that are on that, the questions on that test are not the stuff that you learn in school. A lot of it is not. And you might not remember a lot of it also. That's the other thing. Discriminatory system. British typically are faster entering than Jamaican or Hispanic. I would believe that to be true. I don't know it, but I'll take your word for that. I would probably see that. Prison systems will make more money. Oh, that's right. That's correct. Buying votes. Yes, they are. I appreciate your knowledge, Dre. Partly Cloudy, appreciate you. Thank you for coming in. Tomorrow I'll have more time for commentary. Yes, everybody. I usually take way more time for comments, but today I got to go a little bit quicker. But don't worry, we'll have plenty to talk about tomorrow based on what happens tonight. I think tomorrow we're going to have a whole lot to discuss. Let's see. That's what Bush meant. There'll never be another Republican president, but Trump came along. Yeah, that might be the only reason. Rick said it would be a race to the border, millions and millions and millions. Yes, it's already a race to the border. It's a race to the border right now. If Trump wins, it's going to be a race to the border over these next 2.5 months. Michelle Obama told women to go against their husband. She did. Indirectly, she did. I heard that. They want to break down America so they can rebuild what they want. I do believe that as well. I agree with what all y'all are saying here. So I agree with all these things. They hate marriage, instigating fights and creating chaos. Yes, exactly. Well, married, you get tax cuts. Single, you pay more. Yeah, I get it. If we lose this election, we'll be ushered into a European model of governance. All right, everybody. I got to wrap this up because I got a call that I got to get on right now at 10 o'clock. I usually do these lives. I do these lives every Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. Tomorrow, we will be here. I don't know what's going to happen today. We'll see. Hopefully, it goes the way that all of you wanted it to go. Actually, y'all have conflicting opinions, so that can't happen. But it's going to go how it's going to go. We'll see. And tomorrow, we'll talk about what happened and what to do next based on what happened tonight and today. So all y'all stay safe. If they announced that Trump won and then the Democrats try to say that he didn't win, stay very safe. Stay in your house or grab your Second Amendment item if you're going to go outside the house, especially if you live in a town where people might go crazy. All right, I'll leave it at that. All right, I'll be here tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Make sure you follow me. If you're following me on whatever app, follow me on all the other ones. I'll be here tomorrow. Work on your game. We out of here.